Diagnostic access switch, a CMU switch, and a heat and cool enable switch. Yeah, it's not one of them. Yeah, it should be on the back behind
Good evening, everybody. It's Bobby Harvey broadcasting live in downtown Ottumwa, Iowa for another edition of an Amtrak station stop here on the California Zephyr line. So it is a beautiful day, beautiful evening down here. The temperature hovering in the upper 70s to low 80s. It is a beautiful night for photography. Just a slight breeze. It's a little warm, but it's not bad. It's a very nice day to end the first half of the weekend. I'd like to welcome all of you back. It's been a couple of weeks since I did one of these. We did one after Easter, a week after Easter, and then took a break. And we are back now on Saturday. Been doing my streams on Sunday. I think, at least for the time being, I'm going to start doing them on Saturdays now instead of Sunday. So a few little kind of notes about the action that we'll probably see tonight. Obviously, Amtrak's California Zephyr, which is running pretty much on time. On-time departure from Mount Pleasant a little after 6 p.m. So they'll be getting here within the next 10, 15 minutes or so, providing there aren't any other trains in front of them. And the signals to my west, which are behind us at the IC&E RRX, with a diamond crossing with CPKC. The signal for Main 1, which is the track closest to us, which Amtrak will come in on most likely. The signal is at approach. I don't know if that means that's lined up for Amtrak or maybe a freight in front of it. We'll have to see. Looks like Mark just did another super chat. Thank you very much, Mark. Thanks for watching. Appreciate your support. Very, very considerate of you. Thank you. And yes, it's nice to be back out here by the tracks. Past few weekends have been pretty busy at home, so obviously prioritize home life over railroad stuff. Last year, my wife and I actually welcomed our second child. So we've got a very young one at home. We've got two little ones at home now, so it's very involved at home. So sometimes you prioritize that and get down to the tracks whenever you can, which that's okay. The trains aren't going anywhere. The tracks are staying. The trains are in motion, but you know what? Any train you miss always seems to come back eventually. That's what I've learned over the years. Sometimes I miss really cool stuff, and if I take it gracefully, a lot of times I'll get a chance to see it again. And that second chance where I'm actually able to get it actually turns out to be a much better situation than it would have been the first time. So yeah, it's been very busy at home. And so that's why I haven't been out the past couple of weekends that we've skipped here and there. There's actually a lot more going on too. A lot of very exciting things going on at home for the Harvey family, which I will talk about in future streams and videos, which will include my model trains. A lot of you have been asking about my model trains in past streams. they will be making a grand comeback within the next several months. So stay tuned for that. And obviously, we'll keep doing these streams down here at the train station whenever we can. Like I said, I'm going to try and start doing them on Saturdays instead of Sunday. This seems to be a better day to do them, logistically speaking. And I'm so used to doing them on Sunday that after seeing the train and going home, you think, well, I got to get ready for the new week and go back to work and everything. It was like, if you do it on Saturday, it's like, oh, the weekend's only half over. Kind of makes you feel a little better. Weekend's not over yet. So here we are by the tracks, waiting for Amtrak. It is a very nice night. It is a little warm, but it's not really warm. It's not very humid. The temperature is around the lower 80s, I'd say. Probably reached the high not too long ago. This morning was actually cool. Upper 40s, if you can believe that. That's Iowa weather for you this time of year. That's going to change this upcoming week. Looked at the forecast, and next Thursday, this upcoming Thursday, the high, last time I looked, was going to be approaching 90 degrees, if you can believe that. But we are getting very close to the summer season. Unofficial start of summer is the beginning of, Memorial Day, which is the end of May, the last Monday in May usually. And that's the unofficial beginning to summer. And usually by then, it gets very warm and stays that way for potentially, 4 or 5 months sometimes. Sometimes it can still be hot in October. Just depends on the weather patterns for that year, which can differ greatly year to year. So we are here in Ottumwa waiting for the train, and I don't know if there's anything else going on. Like I say, the signal to our west is still at approach, yellow signal for westbound movements. And we're getting close to Amtrak time, so I'm guessing that signal is lined for Amtrak. Once in a while, if Amtrak is running on time and you get out here early enough, there might be a freight train or two that slips through before Amtrak, sometimes right before Amtrak. So I don't know if there's anything else out there or not. We'll just have to see. Now, as far as railroad history is concerned, today is May 10th. Now, that date might sound familiar to a lot of you. Many years ago, over 10 years ago now, actually over 15 years ago, we have to go all the way back to 2008, Amtrak began something called National Train Day, which coincidentally was also on Saturday, May 10th, 2008. And that was a nationwide celebration of trains that took place in Amtrak stations and even non-Amtrak stations and tourist railroads and train stations all over the country. And it was a big deal for many years. And then I think it was maybe like 2015 or 16 that Amtrak changed it to Amtrak Train Days instead of National Train Day. And I think that kind of dampened a lot of the enthusiasm surrounding the original National Train Day idea, which was all trains, not just Amtrak. But the idea has kind of stuck around in some places. And there are a lot of tourist railroads and other people and organizations around the country still doing National Train Day things. Now, it's not a national holiday or anything like that. It was just something that Amtrak started and is kind of stuck several years after Amtrak officially quit doing it. Now, if you're wondering why National Train Day was on May 10th or around May 10th, the years Amtrak did it, it was whichever Saturday was closest to May 10th. Some years it was right on May 10th, other years it wasn't, but whatever Saturday was closest to it. And the reasoning behind that, the reason they chose May 10th, is that that is a very historic date in railroad history, especially in America. It was the day that the Transcontinental Railroad, the first Transcontinental Railroad, was completed in America. The Central Pacific Railroad, building east from Sacramento, and the Union Pacific Railroad, building west from Council Bluffs in Iowa and Omaha, Nebraska. They met at Promontory Point, Utah, May 10th, 1869. This is, believe it or not, the 156th anniversary of the first Transcontinental Railroad being completed. That pretty much connected the country really for the first time and allowed the country to grow very rapidly in the late 1800s and into the 20th century, and made the country into what it is today. Now, if you ride the California Zephyr, you actually are on part of the original Transcontinental Railroad once you get out into California and Nevada. And especially the most famous part of the Central Pacific passing, their route east from Sacramento. You get to go over Donner Pass, which the Amtrak route closely follows the original Transcontinental Railroad route over Donner Pass. Obviously, it's been changed a lot over the years. The original alignment was pretty rough because they were trying to build fast, because the faster you built, the more money you got from the government when they were building the railroad. And they had to go back eventually and straighten out the tracks and make it a little better than it was. But a lot of it, in fact, I think some of the tunnels that you go through out in California were actually carved out by the original Central Pacific crews when they were building the Transcontinental Railroad. Can you imagine? I mean, you hear stories all the time of the workers on the Central Pacific. A lot of them were Chinese immigrants cutting through these solid rock walls in the Sierra Nevadas, only getting a couple inches a day. And they would occasionally use, blasting powder and other things to help them blast through the mountains, but it was slow going. Pretty much once they left Sacramento, it took a long time for them to get over the Sierra Nevadas, but they did it. It actually got to a point east of there, I'm pretty sure, is where they did their famous 10 miles of track that they laid in one day. Now, can you imagine laying out 10 miles of railroad track in one day? Of course, it was like an assembly line. They had the graders, and then the guys that came along and laid the ties, and then the rails and the spikes. It was all a very well coordinated operation. And to do it all essentially by hand with, manual labor. There were no, power tools or heavy machinery. I mean, except maybe the aid of some, railroad locomotives and other equipment like that. Other than that, they did it all by hand. An amazing feat of engineering the Transcontinental Railroad was. And it only took 6 years to build it, all the way across the country, 1863 to 1869. Obviously, today, with all of the regulations and all the loopholes and all the, labor laws and all that stuff you have to jump through now, all that red tape, dealing with the government and all that stuff, there's no way you could build a railroad thousands of miles across the country in just 6 years. But back then, it could be done. And of course, it also was easier that there really wasn't anything out there. I mean, there wasn't really much stopping them. Fortunately, a lot of Native American settlements were kind of disrupted, which that wasn't necessarily a good part of the history of the railroad, and a lot of buffalo and stuff were killed. But other than that, I mean, there really wasn't much out there between Omaha and California. So that's why National Train Day was started by Amtrak on May 10th. And so even now, you kind of think of You really think about those things on this day. A lot of anticipation. People out east waiting for the telegraph to come through on the when they're completing the railroad. And it tapped out for every, final spike that was driven. Last spike being a ceremonial golden spike, which was obviously removed after the ceremony, but it's a big deal. And with that, the California Zephyr is approaching the station here in Ottumwa. We'll talk more about the Transcontinental Railroad and other things as the train comes in, after the train leaves. And it has arrived. California Zephyr here in Ottumwa. Yeah, Mark, the lead locomotive is 190. Second locomotive, number 4. And it's actually been a while since I've seen these engines back to back here on the Zephyr. So Amtrak came in on an approach, and it's still approach, I think. Either that or it's an advance approach. I can't tell if that's the top signal head or not. See if you guys can see it. Yeah, I don't know if you guys can see it down there, but they got some sort of yellow signal aspect down there. It looks like the top signal head, so they got an approach. As you can see, kind of the old and the new in this picture. We got Amtrak, modern passenger train in the station, and the old CB&Q steam locomotive 3001 behind the depot. We're approaching timetable time for departure. They're probably going to be giving their warning whistle here pretty quick, so all the passengers can get back on the train. I assume they'll leave on an approach signal. Well, nice extended stop for the passengers. Wouldn't be surprised they're waiting for PTC to load or something like that. Who knows? Kind of neat watching the passengers. They usually get out during their fresh air stop, stretch their legs. They get pictures next to the train. It's a big deal when you're on a cross-country train trip to get out, stretch your legs, and see the country that you're passing through. Actually step out into the town for a couple of minutes. Well, this is quite the lengthy stop. I don't know if we've gotten them sitting here this long before. Oh, look who we have over here. Oh, man. Mr. Groundhog. And of course, as soon as I turn the camera, he gets in really good view. Look at this. That's funny. Okay, Dakota is named the Groundhog Pat. Okay, we'll go with that. Pat the Groundhog. Quite a long stop this has been. I think they might be getting ready to go. Yeah, as A-Train just noted, CPKC wants to get their train 181 out of their yard. That's going to require going across in front of the BNSF. Amtrak already has the signal. I highly doubt that BNSF is going to give back the signal in front of Amtrak. We better get this show on the road or CPKC's not going to be very happy, because 181 is one of their highest priority trains on their line. Well, there's Mr. Patrick. You can see him. Yeah, there he is. What's he doing? Where are you going, buddy? Yeah. I thought he was going to run right on the platform. He must live in that container. He is literally sticking his head out. There he goes again. What a goof. Well, it kind of looks like the crew is having some sort of conference down here. Don't know what about. I haven't really heard much chatter on the radio. I guess I should be paying more attention. Yeah, something must be up, because hopefully it's nothing big. Well, this looks, maybe this is a relief conductor here. Nothing else going east right now. Amtrak still has an approach signal. I would think they'd at least get them going. Get through a couple more blocks. Maybe they're waiting for a less restrictive signal. I don't know. Well, time will tell. I've got the scanner up to my ear. Make sure I hear any conversations that might be happening on the BNSF frequency. Haven't heard anything besides CPKC, which they're going to have to wait until Amtrak goes before they can send their train across the diamond. Well, I'm sure they're not any happier than Amtrak right now. But Amtrak's got a signal, so I mean, they could go if they're ready. Yeah, the crews do change here. But it's usually a pretty quick process, like 10 minutes. They're just kind of milling around, so yeah, I don't know. All right, let's get this show on the road, guys. Literally. After those last two passengers got on, I think it's just nothing but crew members on the platform now, besides me, of course. Well, anybody that boarded the train in Ottumwa tonight's getting their money's worth already. Haven't even left. Enough time to maybe get a dinner reservation, maybe pop up into the dining car, get a meal. Reservations haven't sold out yet. All right, Dakota asks what the Groundhog is up to. Haven't seen him since he did his little mad dash across the little community garden, so I'm looking for him too. The Groundhogs live all through here. They have tunnels dug all around the station on both sides of the tracks. Okay, I think I just got some insight into why we're sitting here. And this is my next guess. I didn't notice them changing engineers yet, which they do here in Ottumwa. And apparently, from what I just heard, they are not on the train yet. So I wonder if the engineer crew isn't quite rested yet. That would have meant they would have brought in a late train going east, which I don't think it was really very late this morning. So I don't know. But whatever reason, I think the relief engineer crew might be holding up this train because they're not quite ready yet. Which makes sense because I hadn't seen them change engineers yet, and we would have because we're right up by the engines. I think the morning train, which they usually flip, the engineers that bring it in the morning take the evening train back. So I wonder if they had too many hours coming east and they had to have some rest before they can go west again. And you know, those rules and regulations, I mean, you can't fudge them. I mean, it's law. You have to be off a certain number of hours before you can get back on the train again. I think it's like 8 hours. You have to have 8 hours of rest. Here's our groundhog again, folks. Well, this time he went under the container. Now, they did say in the radio, which I put the radio up to the phone. I don't know if you guys could hear it. But they said that it would only be a few more minutes. So we will see. Oh, there goes our groundhog, buddy. Yeah, Dakota says, you should drive the train, Bobby. Well, I'm not certified, but I probably could do it. I try to play by the rules. I don't think, hundreds of hours on Microsoft Train Simulator counts. I'd like to know how many hours I put into playing that game over the past 25 years. I still occasionally go back to it from time to time. Okay. I believe our relief engineer crew is here. All right, now once the engineer gets settled in, gets the PTC reinitialized, they're probably gonna make a mad dash out of here. But you know what? I could stand here next to one of these idling P-42s for hours. It does not ever get old. All the rhythmic sounds and little noises that these engines make. Classic Amtrak sound. After being on these trains for over 30 years now. Won't be long. These engines will be replaced by the new Chargers to a certain extent. I think they're going to make their official debut on the Zephyr later this year. We'll see. Depends on how many are available, how many bugs they have to get worked out. But a lot of these engines, these old P-42s, they're getting old, they're showing their age, but they're still going. A lot of them are going to be sticking around for many more years to come. Yes, as Mark just mentioned, the famous whoop sound, which I think is something to do with the air compressor belt drive system kicking in or something like that. It is a very distinct GE locomotive sound. Well, our Groundhog friend, I think, might be attempting to cross the tracks. He is on the platform. Yeah, they're going back the other way now. Of course, there's more than one. I've seen 4 or 5 of them out here at once before. I don't know if we could see them from here. Nope, holes in the way. Our Groundhog's running around over there. There he is. There he goes. All right. Okay, the Groundhog's across. Let's go. What a hoot. Okay. Warning whistle. Few passengers still on the platform way down by the coaches. We're about ready to go. Finally. Hey, pretty good station stop though. We got a lot of entertainment from the Groundhog and everything else. And we're off. .648 and 7:24 were the times. All ahead, slow. Not for this train. It's going to go 80 pretty soon. Woo! There we have it. California Zephyr, after a long, over 30-minute stay in the Ottumwa station, is finally heading west on an approach signal. So, who knows how much further they're going to be able to go. They're not going to make 79 before they have to slow down and stop again. But they are on their way. I don't know if there's a freight train coming or in front of them, what the deal is. That signal has been at approach for a long time, so I don't know what could be going on down there. Now, there is a crossover further west that allows trains to go from Amtrak's direction, from Main 1 to 2. So I don't know, maybe there's another train down there, or maybe they're waiting to jump over tracks or to the other track. I don't know. But the Zephyr is now clear of the station here in Ottumwa. Well, even though we've only seen Amtrak, it's been a pretty exciting evening. It's kind of neat to get an extended station stop for whatever reason. At least it wasn't a huge delay. There have been times that I've seen Amtrak be in the station for an hour or more just because of other trains or issues with the PTC not coming up, you know, a lot of things. But, yeah. So Amtrak is well on its way, heading west towards its next stop in Osceola, followed by Creston, Omaha, Lincoln, all points west. They will arrive in Emeryville, California, just a little under 2 days from now. With the sun setting, we're going to keep things rolling for maybe another 5 minutes and wrap things up for the night. But it's been a pretty nice night, pretty decent return to streaming after a couple of weeks of a break. So, we just got Amtrak. Any of you that are just joining us right now, just go ahead and reverse the video about a good 30-35 minutes to see Amtrak coming in, and the much longer station stop than we're used to. A lot of times they can get out of here in 10-15 minutes, if not less. They're right on time. It's kind of unfortunate because they were running right on time when they came in, but yeah, they just had to wait on the engineer. I guess the engineer wasn't able to go on duty until just right before they left. They had to wait for him. Those hours of service laws, I mean, there's no fudging them. I mean, it's law. You cannot get on a train until you've had at least 8 hours of rest. You can only be on a train, I think it's up to, I don't know. Well, for the engineers and conductors, I think it's 12 hours, maybe 15. I feel like 12 is 12 or 15. And then you have to have a rest period of at least 8 hours before you can get on another train. Well, it sounds like CPKC's train 181 is going to depart the yard now. We won't be able to see very much of it from here. We might pan the camera over that way to kind of play us out for the evening. Obviously, if they've got the signal, they will be the next train before any other BNSF trains. And by that point, it'll be past when we'll be running the stream tonight. So we'll go ahead and zoom down there just a little bit. You might be able to see the train go by the very corner of the screen as we play things out tonight. About 3 more minutes left on the stream we're going to give it. Pretty nice night to round out 2025 National Train Day, or if at least the 156th anniversary of the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad, which happened on May 10th, 1869. Now, the railroad through Ottumwa, I'm pretty sure, already existed when the Transcontinental Railroad was being built. But it was very, very early stages of railroading in Ottumwa. Pretty sure it was the 1850s, 60s when the first railroad arrived in town. And at one time there were several railroads here in Ottumwa. Today it's just BNSF and CPKC, which is more than a lot of towns, but to have two railroads in the same town. But back in the day, you had the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy, which of course was this line. The CPKC was Milwaukee Road. And then you also had the Rock Island and the Wabash. Alrighty, folks. Amtrak kind of dominated the action tonight, as it usually does. A-Train commented now that the railroad reached Ottumwa in 1859. 3001 was donated for the 100th anniversary. Yeah, I remember that now. I remember reading that on the plaque, 1959. So yeah, the railroad was already in Ottumwa before the Transcontinental Railroad even started being built. It's hard to believe, but back then, the furthest west you could go on a train was Council Bluffs. There were no railroads in America west of there, except, I'm sure there were some lines out in California, but you couldn't go any further west from the east from Council Bluffs or Omaha until the Transcontinental Railroad was built. So it's always important to kind of remember what happened 156 years ago on this anniversary date, May 10th. All right, guys, we have hit 1 hour in the stream. I'd like to thank you all for watching. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up for tonight as we pan back around to the Ottumwa station. And like I said at the beginning of the stream, I'm going to start doing these streams on Saturdays now instead of Sundays. As we can hear in the background, our train 181. We're just going to zoom up on the Ottumwa station. Hear the train in the background there. See the moon rising over the top. And we're going to just wrap things up here. Got some pretty good Amtrak action tonight. Extended station stop and a couple of groundhogs to liven up things as the train was in the station. We'll do this again next week. We'll see you next Saturday or whenever I choose to do a stream next. Just keep up to date on the happenings on my posts section of my channel. And if you're not a subscriber, go ahead and hit subscribe and you'll be able to see all of my post updates as I send them through. So with that, we're going to wrap things up for tonight. We'll see you all next time here in Ottumwa or wherever else I decide to do a stream or video in the upcoming months. It's going to be a good time of year. We're almost to summer. The summertime weather is already here. So with that, so long from Ottumwa tonight. We'll see you next time. This is Bobby Harvey signing out. So long, everyone.